Welcome back to V8 Creative and the first part of the new series. And on this episode, I'm going to share with you the car we're going to build. Yes, welcome back to the Dean Den again, and thank you for all your comments saying you'd miss me, you'd miss Rufus, and you just wanted another build series. Now, what I did in the last part of the Ultima RS series is I asked you to guess what car I was going to build this time, and we had a lot of guesses. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to share with you the top 8 guesses, or one of which is correct. So the most popular guess was a Caterham. Well, I love Caterhams, beautiful machines. I've driven them. I haven't built one, but they would suit this channel. Yeah, it would suit it really, really well. So if someone at Caterham's listening, you can just pick up the phone or send me a comment and we can have a discussion. So in the past, I've built 3 Westfields. Yep, I know it's not a Caterham, but the same sort of style of vehicle, and I must say they were amazing, every single one. Next on the list was a Cobra replica. Yep, 427 Cobra replica. And actually, yep, in 2005 I did one of those. I'm going to put some pictures up here. I actually built a DAX with a Ford Cleveland engine that was a nitrous oxide injected. It was a beautiful, beautiful machine, but is it going to be this build? Would I do the same again? Well, just wait and I'll tell you. In third place was the Lancia Stratos. Boy, what a car that is. And I think people called this out because they assumed fewer cylinders was a V6 rather than a V8. Yeah, that's a tick there. And also, apparently, I don't know this, they're pretty terrifying things to drive. So that was number 3 on the list. Next, in 4th place, was a GT40 replica. Yep, the 40-inch high beast with that 302 Ford in the back. Well, would I want to build one of those? Of course I would. Oh my God. Amazing, amazing. I've driven a few. They are scary. Are they as scary as the car I'm going to build? Maybe. But a GT40 is definitely on my bucket list. There is no question about that. Because naturally, it's a V8. Next, Radical. Yep, makes complete sense. I've actually never driven a Radical. I hear they're pretty amazing machines. Am I building one? Well, wait and see. Next, Porsche Widowmaker. Now, that name, you know the Porsche I'm talking about, that's aligned to. Would I build one of those? No, I'm not rich enough to do that. They are seriously, seriously expensive. Next, an SS replica. Now, AK do one of those now, and yeah, quite a nice car. Classic, yeah, leather interior, cruising. Yeah, I could see myself building one of those. And finally, someone popped in there, my dad's Morgan. So there are the top 8. Now, one of those is correct, and I wonder which. Right, so this series is going to be quite emotional for me. It really, really is. And it's something I've wanted to do for a while now. Hence why Rufus says, every time I talk about this car, my eyes go wet. Now, this new series is devoted to my dad's dream car. Yes, as the Ultima RS was for me, my dream, and still is, to be honest, this car was my father's dream. It was his supercar. Now, she's lightweight. Power to weight is pretty good. Incredibly nimble. And this type of car was banned in motorsport for being too dangerous and too fast because it would beat far superior cars on the track. It's amazing. Tell you what, this thing is absolutely terrifying to drive. And what I mean by that is, I've piloted one, 70 miles an hour, in the wet, rear tyre, hits a drain cover, and I tell you what, at that moment, any vehicle I've ever driven has never made me so scared. So what's the car? Well, one of you got it right, and it's my father's old Morgan three-wheeler. Now, I hear a few of you probably sighing, think, oh, it's a classic car. It doesn't go 200 miles an hour. But I promise you, these are very special cars with a huge following. And we're going to have a great time building this, because there ain't a lot of instructions. Some of it's made of wood. It uses leaf spring suspension. The accelerator's on the steering wheel. Oh my God. I mean, honestly, this thing, well, it takes you back to the 1930s. So why was my dad so in love with these cars? Well, when he was young, he would call himself a nipper. He used to slick his hair back with Brill cream. And what it was is he loved motorsport. He used to go to Brooklands. He actually watched Fangio racing. I mean, it's just mad. Now, he used to play in a dance band. He used to play a saxophone. My dad was so cool. And when he used to go to these dance band evenings, he used to drive his supercar. He used to drive his Morgan three-wheeler. And can you imagine it? Him in there, cruising away, slick back hair, his sax leaning on the seat next to him. The girls must have loved him. Well, my mum found him that way. So clearly. And he used to tell me stories that when he used to drive home in the evenings from the dance band, he'd end up in a hedge or through a picket fence occasionally, because the brakes were hopeless and the lights, well, might as well not have had them at all. So let's just wait and see when I get this beast back on the road. Now, why am I saying back on the road? Well, my dad had to sell his Morgans when he was young because of expenses like children, me. And he always wanted to get another one. And these are really difficult to buy, these cars. They are few and far between. And it was 1982. Boy, I looked a lot different there. And he spent £2,000 on a pile of rust. There you go. That's what it looked like. Seriously, a pile of rust. The only way we knew it was a car, because you could sort of see the steering wheel and a wheel. That was it. You couldn't recognize anything else. So he spent 4 years restoring his 1933 matchless powered Super Sports in a lovely red. And I'll show you around in a minute. Now, this car, over 30 years, he loved it. He cherished it. He took it on hill climbs. He took it to the Morgan factory. He went to shows. He was an avid member of the Morgan Owners Club, the three-wheeler club. And he loved that car. But unfortunately, in the last 10 years of his life, he really got a bit frail to drive her. So I took him out in it once or twice, but then it went into long-term storage. And the problem is, as a lot of you will know, if you store a car for a long time, well, it's not very good for it. So, what this series is going to be about is me taking this machine apart, sort of refurbishing every single component. Don't worry, I've done a lot of it in the background, so you don't have to watch me getting rid of rust on loads of stuff. And then we're going to put it together in a mini series. It won't be as long as the Ultima. And at the end, my dream is to get this three-wheeler out alongside my Ultima RS and drive them together. And that, I think my dad would just love me to do that, and I would too. So that, I hope, will be the last episode of this series. So that's the plan. Now, my dad's car is a bit special. Why is that? Well, he spent 4 years restoring it. I mean, everything, bodywork, I mean, everything. And after those 4 years, that wasn't enough, because my dad's a model maker, and he spent 11 years, can you believe this, over a decade, making a perfect 1/3 scale model. It is a beautiful. And that scale model actually sat in the Morgan Visitor Centre as a display for over a decade. And what I'm going to do in one of this series is I'm going to share with you how he built it, and it's just over there actually, in the Dean Den, whereas the Morgan's just over there. And you can just see how close both of these vehicles are. So on that note, what I'm going to do is just pick up the camera and we're going to have a look around what the Dean Den is full of at the moment. There is basically pretty much a raw shell there of a Morgan three-wheeler, and over there are hundreds of components, engine components, gearbox components, I mean braking, honestly. So yep, she isn't a 0 to 60 in 2.5 seconds, I get that, but my God, what a machine this is. What a machine. And on that note, let's go and have a look. So here we are, my dad's supercar. Look at it, just look at it. It's sort of taken the place of the Ultima in here. I'm even using the same chassis stands. Well, it's a lot narrower and definitely a lot shorter. But what you're looking at here is a stripped down car. Now what's left? Well, clearly bodywork, the ash frame underneath the bodywork, yep, the wood, and a chassis, the bare engine at the front, and then the gearbox and drive shaft, and that's about it. Everything else, about 300-400 components, are over there. I'll show you in a minute. But as you can see from the body styling of this, it's a 2-seater sports edition, and the cars came in 2 designs, and my dad preferred the barrel back. And what that means is the back of the car actually has the spare wheel recessed into it. Now, this was quite an innovation at the time and was made possible by the front and rear wheels being the same size, so therefore you could carry a spare that would fit everywhere. Interesting. Wow. It's one of these facts. I'm just about to throw loads at you anyway. Now, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to give you a guided tour around the car, focusing on key components. And I think the first is going to be the powerhouse, that engine, that V-twin. Anyway, come over and I'll give you a closer look. Welcome to the business end of the Morgan, the V-twin engine. Now this particular example is water cooled, a lot rare cooled, but this example, an MX-4 matchless water cooled, was designed specifically for the Morgan three-wheeler Super Sports. It produced more power than all its predecessors, and the reason my dad wanted this is he had some of the early variants of the air-cooled Jap when he was young, and he didn't like that because in traffic they used to get hot. He said unreliable things, so he went for water cooled. Of course he did. He's a very practical man. So this is a 990cc engine delivering 42.1 brake horsepower at 4,800 RPM. This was at the time, a very powerful engine. And if you combine that with the weight of the car, sub 500 kilos, it explains why these were such performance cars and would outperform many cars on track and on the road. Now, what you see here is I've semi-stripped the engine. It's been cleaned. So all the overhead valve equipment has been removed, the rockers, the push rods. Now, I've left the valves in place with the springs. I didn't want to disturb the heads because the engine was running fine. It was just needed a bit of, how should I put it, tender loving care, and that's exactly what I've given it. So what we're going to do is we're going to reassemble this with refurbished components, new components here and there where I have to, and of course that first startup. Now with these engines there was the option of a starter motor. whoa, starter motor, eh? But my dad said, no, I don't want that. I want to keep the cranking part of this engine. So here we have a square recess that the crank goes in, but that process of starting the engine, boy, I remember it to this day. What a palaver. So you had to switch the petrol on, a little tap. You then had to switch the oil on, another little tap. Then you go around to the steering wheel, you'd put it like on half throttle, and then you'd retard the ignition. That was really important. And by retarding that ignition, what you were basically doing is rotating this little bit of Bakelite on the front here, which was really ensuring that when she fired for the first time, she wouldn't break your wrist, I'll tell you. It's much the same as when they started aeroplanes with props and you whoa. Anyway, I'm not particularly looking forward to the first time I do this because I quite like my wrists. Anyway, that's the business end. Let's go and have a look elsewhere and see what other joys this beast has to share. Okay, welcome to the inside of the beast. A lot of wood going on here, but here is the gearbox. Now, this gearbox is known as a 3-speeder. Now, this was a significant improvement over the previous models that were 2-speeders. So the 2-speeders had 2 forward gears and no reverse. So you had to get out and push it backwards. Well, what's wrong with that? The 3-speeders was far, far superior. So it had 3 forward gears and also a reverse. And the company that helped Morgan design this were called Berman & Co. And they specialised initially in sheep shearing equipment. So when you're driving it, if you're buzzing, it's because there's probably sheep shears in here. But anyway, so here you can see the rods which help select the gears, backwards and forwards. Nice. That's very child friendly, isn't it? If you've got a kiddie sitting here, because all this is open, of course. But anyway, on the back of the gearbox, the drive shaft comes through here, through the gearbox, and then at the back is the final drive. And that basically has a cog this side for the chain. Of course it's got a chain. And on the other side here, we have a toothed wheel that drives the alternator. Now, as you can see in here, it's very tight. A lot of wood. And the wiring, well, I'll get onto that in a minute. But anyway, as you can see here, it's a very, very simple setup. Right, Morgan 3-wheelers and brakes. Remember, my dad went through a lot of hedges. That's because these things didn't slow down very well. Not at all. So, very, very early cars didn't have front brakes, didn't need those. Just had a rear brake, which was a band. I just amazes me. These things, actually anyone survived driving these things. Then that was upgraded to a cable. Now this cable, like a bicycle cable, Bowden cable, was operated by a handle inside the car. No foot brakes. Then the next option was to have front brakes, but it was only an option because they were only used for parking. You wouldn't want to slow the car down with front brakes. And then eventually what happened is that brakes on the front and the rear were standard. Of course, all shoe brakes, all very ancient. But if you're a Morgan 3-wheeler enthusiast, this is where you do an upgrade, basically to save your life. So the rear brake is still shoes and a drum, and it's hand operated, but the front brakes, these babies have been updated with a hydraulic system on a pedal. So I wonder what car you take that sort of braking off. A Morris Minor, of course. So these have been upgraded, And I've got to somehow get this off. I don't know how to get this off. I think you have to undo the big nut on the back. I'll probably replace the brake cylinders inside here and have a look at the shoes. But yes, let's put it this way. You have to sort of anticipate when you need to stop. So while I'm at the front, let's talk about suspension. Welcome to the front suspension of a Morgan three-wheeler. Now, this assembly here, nice bit of brass here actually. This assembly here is actually on a strut, and this will go up and down. So basically there is a spring here and a spring within here which work together to provide you with suspension. Now this type of design has been used on Morgans, well, I believe it is still used in Morgans in certain guises, but on a Super Sports there was one very, very important upgrade you got, and that was shock absorbers. Oh yes. In the sports model, you needed to make sure those front wheels stayed on the tarmac. Can you imagine going into a car dealer and saying, yes, front shock absorbers, would you like those fitted to your car? I think so, yes. So yes. So this has got like the best suspension the three-wheeler could have, basically. And on the rear, wow, leaf springs. What you see on cars. The reason for using leaf springs, they were simple, light, and really they gave an okay ride, so they sort of worked good enough. And while we're on the front here, the steering column comes down here. I don't know if you can see that. No, you can't really, can you? Well, as you can imagine, this didn't have power steering. Oh no, oh no. So basically, the steering column, you can't quite see it under here, but it goes up through the firewall. And you'll love this. The firewall is made of wood, ash. Of course it is. And it's not only made of combustible material, also the fuel tank is actually goes through it, and half the fuel tank is in the cockpit and half is in this little sort of recess here behind the rad. Christ, who would have thought of safety, health and safety? But anyway, so the steering column comes down here and there's a little dog leg. Now, there is a 2-to-1 gearbox in the steering column, which is further up in the cockpit. So it comes down here, dog leg, and then there's this shaft here, which allows the uprights to turn. It's beautiful. It's very, very simple. And to ensure that both sides are synchronized, there's another rod here that goes across the entire width of the car to the other upright. Very simple. Very straightforward. I must say the feedback you get is quite interesting. There's a bit of play, but I guess that's the reduction gear. I don't know, but it is, let's put it this way, alive. Right, let's move on. Now, I can't get in there really to show you around, so I'm just going to have to point. So here is the swinging arm. This is where the rear wheel attaches. And the brake, obviously. And on the right there you can see the sprocket which drives the chain, which then drives the rear wheel. Here are the 2 leaf springs. They're connected to the swinging arm once the wheel is in place. Now if you look around here, all this here, all this is ash. And the reason why Morgan use ash is because it's slightly pliable, so it absorbs shock, it's very good. Also, it can be manipulated into different shapes, so it can be bent. So all this ash in here is 40 years old. I've just cleaned it off. It was just covered in grease under here. It was disgusting. So it took me a whole day to clean all the grease off. And then I've used just a slight oiling to protect the wood. I don't think I've ever oiled a car before. Well, not oil it as in wood treatment, but anyway. So it's looking pretty good under here now. What you'll probably notice is the bodywork here. The bodywork is made from aluminium. Now, this is a point of contention with Morgan three-wheeler owners because originally the actual bodywork's made of steel. Now, the issue is with steel, it's heavy. So what you get is a lot of people that restore these cars is they tend to opt for aluminium. One, it's easier to work with, so it's easier to bend into shape. But secondly, it's lighter, which means more power to weight, which means a faster car. I don't know why you want to go fast in these things. I don't know. Anyway, you're going to find out soon enough when we finish it and get it on the road. What you see before you is circa 300 items removed from the Morgan. Every single item removed, inspected, degreased, media blasted, repainted, repolished, relubricated, and if that part was not serviceable, replaced down to every seal, every rubber component, every thread. And it has taken me months to do this, months and months. And the reason I haven't shared that with you, it's so boring. It really is boring. So you're just seeing now sort of the end of what I've done. And every single part is lovely. It's like a jewel. So I'll just take one for example. Here you go. Here's the steering wheel. 92 years old. And we can see the center spokes. I don't know what this is, Bakelite or something on the outside. I don't know, it's a bit rubberized, I don't know. Anyway, here, spokes, and this is where the throttle and ignition advance retard goes. Yeah, that's another story for another time. What else have we got here that looks familiar? Well, there's a horn. We need a horn because you need to beep at people. Here is the iconic dashboard. Obviously a full set of instruments, not. Very simple, very straightforward. And here we have engine components. These are the rocker covers for the engine, and those have been cleaned. They're going to be relubricated. Oh my God, it's still disgusting. Anyway, so all that is going to be reassembled. Now, out of shot, you'll see here, this is the rear seat, and it's got horsehair in it. Why not? What's wrong with foam? Horsehair is cheaper. Next, over here we have, wheels and rubber. So, basically, the rims have all been media blasted, recoated, and then I've bought new rubber and new inner tubes. Oh, I love the smell of rubber in the mornings. So these have been totally refurbished and ready to go on the car. As regards some bodywork parts, like the front mud guards, what I've done is I'm taken this down to raw metal. Now I've gone halfway through this, media blasted it, and I'll show you me finishing these off on another episode. So there you have it. I'm going to do a flyover with my little GoPro, so you sort of get an idea of all the bits that are there. And what I'm going to do is follow the same principle as the Ultima build. That is, building things such as the fuel system, the oiling system, the engine, the gearbox, and we'll do it step by step until we finish the beast and we have that first start. So there we have it. Oh, I can't wait. All the hard work's been done. The good bit is to come. There you go. That's our project, and we're going to do it together. Now, I just want to ask you, what do you think of my new office? Very 1930s vibe, I thought. And a lot of these components here, like these oil jugs and the pistons, and all this is my dad's old stuff. I don't have to go out buying things to make this. I just open a couple of boxes. And remember I shared with you my father was a model maker. Well, there's an exact 1/2 scale replica of the engine. And behind me here, this rusty old number plate was what this Morgan was wearing when it came to its fateful end before it went into long-term storage. I'll tell you about that on another episode. But yeah, this machine during some motorsport activities didn't fare particularly well. So really, for this episode, that's about it. So what we're going to be doing moving on is I'm going to start going through these jobs one by one. So until the next episode, as I always say, keep smiling and enjoy your spannering.